Hello and welcome, my dear friends. Today's episode is about headset compatibility. I'll be talking about FSA headsets and how they're compatible with Cane Creek and Enduro bearings. So, first of all, I'll outline the problem. If you are unlucky enough to have an FSA headset, which a couple of bicycles are equipped with, you will notice that the bearing quality leaves much to be desired. So the standard size for FSA bearing is the lower bearing, 41.8 millimeter outside diameter, and then the chamfer angles are 45 degrees external and then 36 degrees internal. So it's a bit of a weird size and a weird chamfer. The upper bearing is a bit more standard, so they're a bit more interchangeable, 45 and 45 degrees chamfer for the upper one, which goes in there. And I don't remember exactly the outside and inside diameter because it's been a while since I actually studied that, but it will be in the description or it will pop up somewhere on the screen. So anyway, what's the problem with the stock bearings with FSA headsets? So I've got the stock bearings, which are these guys here. And the upper bearing isn't too bad, but still, as you can probably see, hopefully on here, it's affected by corrosion. But then the inner bearing, lower bearing, it suffers from corrosion even more, as you can see. And the external corrosion is only part of the problem. The biggest problem is the internal corrosion of the races and possibly the balls, bearing balls as well, because hopefully you can see there's only one seal in FSA bearings, which is right here at the bottom, and it will be a stretch to name it a seal really, because it's just a piece of thin plastic. It's not a normal industry standard rubberized seal with metal back. It's just a piece of cheap poly-made plastic, so it lets everything in. But then here at the top there is nothing at all, so it's just a gap. So obviously all of the crap gets inside of the bearing and it rusts really quickly. Sometimes one good ride in the rain is enough to actually ruin it. So I wouldn't call FSA bearings good at all. And the problem is that unlike your normal bearing, which don't have any chamfers, and you could probably find an industry standard replacement in proper bearing manufacturers like NSK or others, those ones really weird size, very hard to find an industry replacement, so you're stuck with cycling bearings. Now there's one manufacturer that makes various sizes of cycling bearings, and that's Enduro bearings, and also Cane Creek. If we're talking about headsets, they're making their own bearings, which are very similar to Enduro in some ways. So, before I skip to that, one thing I'll mention, because there was corrosion on the original bearings, what I've done is I've bought those FSA bearings here. As you can see, the upper race is aluminium, but then the inner race is still steel, bearing steel. So you can see that they are affected by corrosion as well. And it's exactly the same thing with the seals. So this seal here at the bottom, at least it's present, but it doesn't do much because it's not a properly designed seal. Now at the top there's no seal at all, so it's just a single seal bearing. Same goes about the bottom one. Just a single seal, huge gap. You can see the balls inside there, so it's no good at all. Even though those bearings are relatively expensive, they're still not good. They're still subjected to corrosion and they're not protected. So, how to resolve this problem? Now, as I mentioned before, two manufacturers that do stainless steel races bearings with proper seals. How good is that? That's Enduro bearings and Cane Creek. Now there's a problem. Both Enduro bearings and Cane Creek, they do the bearings in Cane Creek standard, which is very similar but different. So the top bearing is the same size, so no problems there. But then the bottom bearing is actually 52 mil outside diameter and not 41.8. Now 0.2 of a millimeter, is that a big difference or not? I've contacted the Cane Creek, I've contacted Enduro bearings, I talked with them and they said it probably shouldn't be a problem. And I thought, well, it's not such a big difference. Surely there are some tolerances there which would allow for the bearings to be used. So I wasn't really concerned about that. And then another problem is that the height of the bearing, if I'm not mistaken, in FSA standard, it's 7 millimeters. And then in Cane Creek / Enduro, it's 6.5 millimeter. So it's about half a mil lower in the stack or height. Now I've talked with a couple of different people. I talked with a couple of bicycle mechanics, and most people were very sure that because of that stack or height difference it will not work, because surely the way it's designed is there's a fork in the bicycle which sits on the frame there, and the bearing height dictates this clearance in between the fork and the frame. And surely if there's like a half a mil or 1 mil difference in height, then the fork will be rubbing against the frame. So a couple of people told me that. I still didn't believe them. I decided to check. The reason why I thought that they may be wrong is because if you have a close look at the lower headset bearing of the FSA, you will see that there's a steel thing on top there, which doesn't really come in contact with the contact surfaces there. This guy here, the chamfer, does, but then the length of the chamfer is sort of irrelevant, really, as long as the angles and the size are right. So in other words, I thought that Cane Creek bearing might just be a little bit, just a little bit shorter contact area there, but then it should still be the same stack height. And so at my own risk, with my own money, I decided I'll still buy Cane Creek bearing and give it a go. So I bought Cane Creek Hellbender 70, which comes with stainless steel properly sealed bearings, and it did work. It was just as I thought. That thing at the top, that weirdly designed race which comes over the non-existent seal on the internal bearing race. It actually serves no purpose really. And then I think that the contact area, contact patch of the bearing, the chamfered bit, is about the same. And then I cannot show you the Cane Creek bearing right now, but maybe I'll put the picture in the video. But anyway, there is just a seal at the top, and there's no steel cap that comes over it. Just a normal standard industry standard seal at the top and bottom, and stainless steel races and balls. How good is that? No corrosion. Well, there is corrosion even with stainless steel, but it's a lot harder to destroy them, and not much comes inside as well, not many contaminants like, you know, sand and dust and whatnot, just because it's properly sealed. So one little problem though is the frame tolerances. That 0.2 millimeter external diameter difference that I mentioned before. I didn't think it would be such a big problem because it's still a big diameter. So it's really, if you think of it, 52 mil and 0.2 millimeter of that, it's a really small percentage of the tolerance. And I thought it will still work, you know, I would still be able to put it in, take it out. And I have to say that it does work. I'm able to put it in, take it out, but the 41.8 millimeter original FSA bearing, you really put it in by hand, you easily take it out. There's still a tiny bit of play there between the frame and the bearing. Now the Cane Creek or Enduro one, which is 52 mil, well, there's no play. I wouldn't say that you need to use bearing press to put it in, no, of course not. You can still put it in by hand, but you need to be really careful with the alignment, because if it's misaligned slightly, then there may be a problem. So it's still a little bit fiddly to take it in, to put it in and to take it out, yes, but at least they are properly sealed bearings and they're stainless steel, so there's a good option there.